One here is my first Capstone re-recorded. It was a visualization notebook on a survey of mental health in tech. So it asked a bunch of tech workers different questions about the number of employees that are in their companies, whether they're self-employed, whether there was a family history or treatment, whether they had support from supervisors, and so on and so forth. So we have a lot of demographic info, we have employment characteristics, we have mental health history, and there's a discussion of the stigma around disclosing mental health issues. So we checked if there was missing values, and the column with the most missing values was a comment section. People didn't want to leave comments at the end of the survey. Then the state and whether work interfered, whether it interfered with their work was also not completely filled out. Looking at the shape of the data, we can see the missing value count, and just like we saw, it's state, work interfere, and comments. Here's the same thing in a heat map, just because it's a visualization notebook. Basic statistics. We looked at the age column. Initially, we had an age range. We had negative ages, and one person was 10 billion years old. So obviously people were trying to anonymize their responses by putting fake data. So all we had to do was remove the problematic ones and replace them with the median of the regular ages so that it would be more realistic. And here, voila, we have from 18 to 72, which, yeah. So it's more reasonable. Looking at the ages by respondent, whether they or whether or not they sought treatment, it's pretty even by respondent country. Yeah, the median of the age is also pretty clustered around the same, late 20s to 40. And then looking at you already did this. Moving on to the genders, we see that it's not clean. There's a lot of error. So we're gonna, the shortcut I used was to extract the first character of each response and make it uppercase for consistency. And that just reduced the number. There's a lot more we could have done to clean that up. We could have focused on just the top 4 and then filled the rest in with a blank or NA. But let's just go ahead with this method. Everything looks clean when we run the rest of the data frame. Looking at the age distribution, the first question was, how do the ages of the respondents differ based on whether or not they seek treatment? It's about the same. Similar distributions. How does working for a tech company versus a non-tech company affect your likelihood to seek treatment? Of course, most of the respondents did work for tech companies, but those in non-tech companies were less likely to seek treatment. The next question is, how does the company size of the respondent affect whether or not they seek treatment? Now, there's no clear pattern. We had those with 6 to 25 employees having more people than not as no's, so they were avoiding treatment. And then we had those with 500 to 1,000 employees having the same thing, more no's than a yes. Then here we have more than 1,000 having more yeses than no. So there wasn't a clear pattern to it. The next question is, how does the gender affect whether or not they seek treatment? Of course, the two most predominant ones are male and female. And while males outnumbered the females a lot, females were much more likely to seek treatment for mental health issues. The next question, number 5, is how does the type of company affect treatment? So tech versus non-tech. It's pretty similar, but those not in tech companies were more likely to seek treatment. Family history. So those with a family history were more likely, for obvious reasons, to seek treatment than those without. There were so many questions we could have asked for this. How does the role type affect seeking treatment? Remote work versus non-remote. And we see that it's almost even though those who worked remotely were more likely than their colleagues to seek treatment. So there were about 17 different questions we could have answered with visualizations on this data set. It's pretty interesting. Here's a heat map showing whether it interferes with their work and then whether they sought treatment. So we can see that those who say that their mental health interferes with their work are more likely to seek treatment, which is good. Looking at geographical distributions, because we had respondents from all over the world. Most of them were from the US. There was just a handful from other countries. And the ones seeking treatment versus not in other countries, I mean, maybe because it was small samples, it wasn't too helpful. But for the US, there were much more seeking treatment than not. And then looking at just the top 10 countries and the gender distribution, similar to what we expected. We expected more males and females than the others. And then using bokeh to show off, we got this plot showing the age distribution across the countries. Okay, that was it. Thank you.